Myth. The NIST report analyzed the collapse.
Well, let's see if they did. They were tasked with explaining how and why World Trade Center 1 and 2 collapsed and how and why World Trade Center 7 collapsed. They spent 3 years and $20 million at this effort, well over 3 years. And their objective, as they say, the focus of the investigation was on the sequence of events from the instant of aircraft impact to the initiation of collapse for each tower. What? The initiation? It doesn't actually include the structural behavior of the tower after the conditions for collapse initiation were reached, and collapse became, they claim, inevitable. Well, I don't know why it would be inevitable. Some local failure causing the entire collapse of a building has never, in fact, happened at all. Why did they stop at the initiation of collapse? Structural engineers do this for a living, calculate the ability of the structure below to resist some portion of itself collapsing in on itself. That's what they do. Had they gone any further in their analysis beyond the initiation of collapse, they would have had to have accounted for all of the evidence, the overwhelming evidence, for the explosive controlled demolition of these buildings, which you have just seen. They couldn't afford to go any farther at all. What was the report titled? The final report on the collapse of the World Trade Center. There is no analysis whatsoever. It should have been called the final report on the initiation of collapse.
Myth. Jet fuel office fires melted the building's steel frame.
Well, let's see. I believe we've shown evidence that, in fact, what we have, instead of the official story of the melting of the steel frame or its weakening, which is really what the official story is, what we have instead is all of the key features of explosive controlled demolition, all of which is direct evidence, and none of which can be explained by fire, interestingly enough, let alone all 10. With additional reports that we have gone over today, corroborating evidence, including data from the NIST report, FEMA report, testimony of the 118 first responders, whistleblowers, which you'll see in the DVD, 9/11 Blueprint for Truth, expert corroboration, and foreknowledge even. All of this, let me ask you, is this proof of controlled demolition beyond a reasonable doubt? I'd like to ask at this time those same 3 questions that we asked earlier. How many of us agree with the official story that says that the planes hit the buildings, large explosion of jet fuel, weakening of structural steel, and a gravitational collapse down to the ground? Raise your hand really, really high like this so I can count you. I see 1, 2. Is there any others? 2. How many? Thank you. I really appreciate your honesty, and I want to make sure you have the first opportunity to ask your questions. I want to see where we may not have made our points well enough. How many of us are still unsure? Perhaps you're still unsure. 1, 2, 3, 4. I see 4. Is there any more? Okay. And how many of us believe the Twin Towers were brought down by explosive controlled demolition? Yikes. The rest of you. We have a problem, don't we? Well, what's our problem?
One other question we didn't ask, but which we should ask, is how many people believe there's enough evidence that they should have at least tested for the hypothesis of controlled demolition? Well, let's reword it the other way. Is there anybody who doesn't believe they should have tested for explosive residue? Now, this doesn't mean there was. Should the investigators have tested, or should they still test for it?
Does anybody believe?
Does anybody disagree?
Okay, so everybody agrees that they should have tested for it then. Okay. So the problem is that Al-Qaeda probably didn't have access to the most highly secure buildings outside the Pentagon, nor would they have had access to the explosive nanothermitic material that's made only in very advanced laboratories. So I would like Peter to sum this up for us.
Well, the physical evidence that you've seen, the science, and the real-time accounts make it apparent that our government lied to us about the building collapses. The 9/11 Commission reinforced these lies. FEMA and NIST justified them, and the corporate media repeated them and hammered them in. We were fooled. And now we have seen that explosives were used to destroy each of the 3 World Trade Center high-rises on 9/11. But it takes months of advanced planning to engineer and place these explosives. Who had the means, the opportunity, the motive to engage in this crime? Who benefited? These are the classic questions that journalists and crime investigators should be asking. Who had access to these highly secure buildings? Who had access to the extremely sophisticated explosives? AE 9/11 Truth and FireFighters for 9/11 Truth do not research these important issues or even speculate. We do not have conspiracy theories. So, unfortunately, this is just the beginning of a disturbing but essential journey for you back into the nightmare of 9/11. The evidence you've seen tonight is just a small fraction of the vast body of information that the 9/11 Truth movement has assembled. The questions raised are numerous and ominous, and they must be answered in a new investigation. You will have to discover the evidence that we didn't have time to bring you tonight, and we encourage you to follow up. Thank you.
I just wanted to thank everybody for coming. We're going to go into questions and answers after this. But when I first looked, like I said, I originally believed the official story. I aggressively defended it. And when I first started cracking open that little window that there could be possibly more to this story, I went through every emotion, just like probably a lot of you here who didn't originally believe it or consider it are going through. And I didn't want to believe it. I came up with every excuse not to believe it. And then once I started looking more, I saw more and more evidence, then I became angry. And then I wanted to do something. And then I became scared. And I was like, well, if I do something, what's going to happen to me? And that's probably a fear a lot of people have. And I know firefighters, it's one of the biggest fears they have of signing that petition or speaking out. There's so many that I know that support what we're doing, but they're not willing to put their name publicly. And I'm asking tonight for any firefighters to sign our petition to show the support. And from speaking out and starting this website and meeting Richard and a lot of the other incredible people here tonight, I've also met some military intelligence officers that have taught me a lot. And I asked one of them, I said, how do we win? How do we, we can't get through the media. We can't get through most of our friends and family because it's too scary to talk about. How do we do this? And he said, it's easy, Eric. You just shine the light. And he said, just come from a place of love and not fear. They operate, whoever was responsible, no matter who it was, terrorists or whoever had access to all this, advanced technology, they operate from fear and darkness. They're not willing to step up here. They're not willing to take credit for what they did. But if we come from a place of, we overcome that fear and we talk about how we love each other, and we talk about the evidence and the facts, and we don't get angry. When you're talking to somebody about this, and this is just one piece of advice if you're speaking to firefighters especially, because it is such an emotional topic for us, is once it starts getting to that elevated moment where we're arguing, it's done. It's over. Just step back and realize that we are going to win. We're going to keep shining the light. This movement is growing, and there's more of us, as we stand up together, and those of you in the room, if you can join our causes, and not just ours, start your own. Take action. Do something. Investigate yourself. And just talking about it. That's one of the biggest things, because right now it's so taboo in this country to even talk about it. And this is insane. I mean, my friends, family, it's hard to talk about. My brother, for example, my niece has been one of the biggest helps, and her dad was super angry. I mean, I've never seen him get this angry when she talked about it. He's now joined, and he is now making bumper stickers and doing everything he can. And so what I'm saying is, if we stand up together, we are going to win. It seems scary. It seems overwhelming. It seems like they're out to get us. But there's so many more of us. And if we come from a place of love, they're not going to be able to stop us.
So you have the tools now to follow up. It's extremely important that you do. We have DVDs that have much of this information. And, of course, tonight's DVD will give you much more information. The first DVD for firefighters for 9/11 Truth will be available in about a month and a half. So that's very exciting. But right now you have 9/11 Blueprint for Truth, the 2-hour version, and the 10-minute, 30-minute, 60-minute version. Both, of course, can be purchased for a discount. David Ray Griffin's excellent series of books on these subjects are available in the back for you as well. So we're asking all of you to demand a new investigation. Call and write your congressman, your television stations, letters to the editor. However you have to do it, there's action that each of you are called to do. Sign our petitions, the AE 9/11 Truth petition and Firefighters for 9/11 Truth, demanding a real investigation. You can sign our petition here and on the Firefighters website as well. We ask you to become a sustaining member as well for Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth and for Firefighters for 9/11 Truth. Most of all, we're asking you to speak the truth about 9/11. For a time comes when your silence is in fact betrayal. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Thank you.